back in, everybody, to another episode of Between the Ears, presented by Mountaineers Now on SI Fan Nation. I'm Schuyler Callihan. And yes, a heartbreaking loss for West Virginia in that season opener against Pitt, 38-31. A lot of things went well, but a lot of things not so well as well. So that's what we're here to talk about today, the good and the bad from the first game of the season against Pitt, and what some of those things could mean for West Virginia moving forward, not here in just week 2, but that can maybe be a factor later in the year as we get deeper into Big 12 play. So first things first, I want to get a couple of thoughts off of my chest before we dive into the good and the bad. So some of the things I'm not going to talk about, we'll talk about now. So that's the fourth down call really quickly. We'll talk about the 2 reviews, and we'll also talk about we'll just leave it at those 2 things. So for me, the 4th down and 1, not even a full yard, probably half a foot, if that. I'm of the belief that if your defense is playing well, that gives me more of an incentive to want to go for it on 4th down. Because if you don't get it, your defense is playing well, you can bank on your defense to get a stop. You have an extra opportunity to win the game by going for it instead of punting it. I know it's hindsight's 2020, but to me, even in that situation when the game was live, I thought going for it was the right call. If your defense is playing bad, then yeah, I'm punting that ball 100 out of 100 times. I'm not even thinking about going for it, because as if my defense is playing bad, you're going to give them half a field against a bad defense. No, I'm punting the ball in that situation. So to me, I think you have to go for it. And what really kind of irritates, I think, a lot of the fan base, from at least those that I've spoken to, is that Neil Brown has talked about this offensive line all offseason, about how improved they are, how experienced they are, the depth that they have, the strides that they've made, yet he can't count on those guys to get half a foot. Now, I know I may be taking things out of context, and he could come back and say, you know what, yeah, I do trust him to get that, but, you know, data said or whatever said that we should punt the ball and make them go the full field. I understand that to a certain extent, but again, I think it was the wrong call. We can all agree to disagree. I'm sure everyone's got their opinion on it, but at the end of the day, it's not what lost West Virginia the game. There was a lot of things that lost them this game, untimely penalties, drops, a whole number of things that went wrong. The 2 calls that did not go West Virginia's way. First of all, that on the game-tying drive for Pitt, the pass to the tight end, Bartholomew, I believe is who it was to, ball was clearly touching the ground. And if you haven't seen it, go on Twitter, check out @WV Hallbilly. That's Chris Hall. He's our co-publisher here on the site. He had, I believe, a video and a picture of the ball clearly touching the ground. I don't understand how not only does that play stand as a catch, it was ruled a catch on the field, but they confirmed it as a catch. I don't know. I really have no idea, unless they have some weird view that no one else has seen, that how you can confirm that a catch. I mean, even when you go back and watch the replays, you have to overturn them. And I get from Neil's frustration, I get where his frustration stems from, because at the end of the game, when Reese Smith catches the ball or doesn't catch the ball at like the 2 or 3 yard line, it looked as if his hands are under it. Now, when you go back and watch the replay, and even when it happened live, I actually thought the ball skipped on the ground and was incomplete. When you watch the replay in the stadium, it kind of looked like he got his hands up underneath of it, but there were some shots that I seen, and it was clearly an incompletion to Reese Smith. But to Neil's point, if you have the ball as if you have the pick ball as a completion, then Reese Smith's has to be a completion. If you rule the Pitt tight end as an incompletion, and you rule Reese Smith's as an incompletion, they can't be one and the other. They have to be the same, because literally the same exact thing happened on both plays. So that's where Neil's frustration comes from. I totally understand it. So here, let's let Neil jump in here and see what he had to say on Tuesday's press conference about the two calls.
I think that, and that's a great question. So Greg Burks handles the officials in our conference, and our commissioner was at the game, and he was helpful. And Greg does a really good job. He does a good job. I don't have any complaints with him. I think the game's extremely hard to officiate. My issues in the game were the first one was on. I knew both those guys fair caught the ball. Okay, so on the start of that last drive, I knew both of them fair caught the ball. All right, and it just took them longer to get it right, but they got it right. So credit to them. And then as far as the last catch or non-catch goes, is there's two plays that went to replay. That went to replay that on their last scoring drive when they were on offense, they threw the ball to the tight end across the middle. They called it a catch on the field, and they let it stand. I think that's what they said, is they let it stand. And to me, the ball hit the ground, okay, which I think you can see on a shot. And so the ball that Reese caught or was ruled a catch on the field as well. It goes to replay. You can see it hit the ground just like you can see that other ball hit the ground. So my argument is either both of them are catches or neither one of them are catches. And that's where, and we just agreed to disagree on it. But it wasn't hostile or anything like that. But you have those discussions. And I think our league office does a good job of responding. I was frustrated at the end of the game because I didn't get a response from the head official. And when I called that timeout, and I called the timeout to get a response because I wanted to know what was said on replay. And he's the only one that knows. So that's why I was frustrated at the end of the game. But it's a hard game to officiate. But we just Greg and I kind of agreed to disagree. But I have faith. I thought the game overall it's a really emotional game that I thought was officiated pretty well.
So there you go. There's Neil's thoughts on the catch, no catch situation for both Pitt with Gavin Bartholomew and Reese Smith at the end of the game. So that's kind of my thoughts as well. I think you have to call it both ways, especially when both plays look almost identical. But it is what it is. You got to put it behind you and bury this game in the past. Now, let's get to the good and the bad from West Virginia in that first game against Pitt and how this could affect the team moving forward. So let's start with the bad. Let's get rid of the bad taste stuff first. The bad was the offensive line. I really thought that this offensive line was going to take a step, and it still could. There's a lot of football left to be played, and Pitt's defensive line and really their front seven, probably the best front seven West Virginia will see all season. I don't even think it's really much of an argument. Could maybe throw Baylor in the mix. Yeah, I mean that's probably it. I don't see any other. Maybe Kansas State. Kansas State's got a good front seven, but that's honestly got to be the best front seven they'll see all year. So it was a tough challenge. I think at times they did well, but as the game got a little deeper into the third and fourth quarter, really wasn't that good. Doug Nestor started at right tackle. Jordan White was at right guard. A little bit of a surprise considering Brandon Yates and Jaquay Hubbard were fighting for that right tackle spot. Jordan Well played so well during fall camp that he earned a starting spot at guard, so that kicked Nestor out to right tackle. So in a way, they do have some more depth. But again, the offensive line's got to get better. If not, I don't see how JT Daniels is going to find a way to stay healthy for the first time in his career. So that's going to be a big thing moving forward. The second thing is drops. I mean, I counted 7 drops in that game. Now, initially after the game, Neil said he only counted 2. He checked himself, came back on Tuesday during his press conference, said he had 6. I still have 7. Now, some of those can be, iffy. You can call them how you want them. There's really no clear number, but I had 6. I had 7. Neil had 6. Either way, that's still way too many drops. And obviously, the big one from Ford Wheaton that again didn't lose them the game, but that was the go-ahead touchdown. Ball straight in his hands. JT put it right on the money. Nobody within 5-6 yards of him. Just took his eyes off it, started to head upfield without the ball, and that was all she wrote. So, as much as everyone's going to remember Bryce Ford Wheaton for that drop, I think a lot of people have to go back and watch the tape and really see how well he played in this game. You take that one play away, and I know it's a big one. It's a hard one to forget, but he played his tail off. He had the 2 touchdowns in the end zone, the fade balls. He had the one where JT got his arm, got his shoulder taken off. The ball was kind of floating up into the air. Bryce had to come back and caught the ball in traffic and got a first down. That was a huge play in the game too, because I think that was when Pitt was up either 17-10 or maybe it was 24-17 or something like that. They had just scored. And actually, I think because it was right before the half. And if they don't get that, that's 4th down. They're punting, and all of a sudden, Pitt's rolling. So that was a huge play from Bryce Ford Wheaton. The only other bad that I had would probably be the tackling. The tackling was very uninspiring, to say the least. But when you don't have your best cornerback, which is arguably your best player, and you lose Wesley McCormick to targeting, that secondary is going to look a little shaky as expected. So that wasn't very encouraging. Week 1 is usually always a little rusty in terms of in terms of tackling. And it was actually one of my keys of the game on the walkthrough game day show with Eugene Napoleon, and they didn't tackle well. That's something that this coaching staff takes a lot of pride in is the fact that they've been a very good tackling team throughout the first 3 years. So I expect that to be much, much better this week in against Kansas. Don't foresee that being a season-long problem. It never has been under this coaching staff. So I think that's something that they can get cleaned up. The offensive line, I don't know if that can get cleaned up. The drops, that's been a thing. That's just for whatever reason, since this staff has been here, they have not been able to catch the ball at a high percentage. So, if that doesn't get fixed either, this offense, it might take a step or two forward, but it's not going to make that big leap that everyone expects them to. Then we go to the good. JT Daniels, phenomenal. I mean, like I said, you take out the 6 drops, I mean, his completion percentage just skyrockets. And it's not like those were iffy drops either. They were 100% on the receiver. He put it right on the money. It's not one of, you could count it as a drop, but no, they were 6 clear drops. So you take that, you take the amount of pressure that he stood and took in the pocket, and really did a phenomenal job of staying in there, hanging in, delivering passes with pressure right up in his face, and did a good job of just staying poised, not pressing and not forcing things. Made some really, really good decisions. Had a play at the end of the game in the 4th quarter where he got flushed out to his right, and instead of running the ball, he kept the play open long enough to see Mike O'Laughlin wide open for a first down and hit him in stride. So that was a good play from JT. And I think the biggest thing with him is he's as good as advertised. And if they can keep him upright, this team's got a chance to compete in every single game, no matter who they're playing. I really, really believe that. Number 2, CJ Donaldson, phenomenal performance. And I know I've said that word about 15 times, but that was just a tremendous debut for a true freshman to go out there and play the way he did. 7 for $125, 2 touchdowns, a block punt. I mean, and what doesn't get noticed too is he had 2 really crucial blitz pickups that no one probably even remembers or saw. There was one for sure on a deep ball. And man, if he didn't pick that one up, JT was going to get crushed. I can't remember what part of the game it was in. I believe it was I think it was the 4th quarter. I think it was the 4th quarter of that game, but I could be wrong. But did a really good job of pass protection, ran hard, was very decisive, stuck his foot in the ground and wasn't impatient, just hit the hole right away. And, I think he's got a chance to be certainly the number 2 running back and potentially maybe even the number 1 guy here in the next couple of weeks if Tony Mathis struggles and he continues to keep doing his thing. And the final good piece of this game. So we got JT, we got CJ Donaldson. I would say the third best thing out of this game would have to be the defensive line. Boy, were they active. And I would even throw Jared Bartlett in that mix too. I know he's a bandit, but I would include him in there too. Just very active. Dante Stills played his best game, and I thought that the minute the game ended, Neil Brown confirmed that on Tuesday. So that's the best game he's ever played since they've been there, at least. And Taj Alston was active. Jordan Jefferson was in there. Eddie Vestarainen was good. They were very, very, very strong up front, and I think that's only going to help out those younger guys, maybe not the young guys, but the inexperienced guys in this system, like Lee Koba. Lance Dixon still trying to get himself going, Jasir Cox, those second and third level guys that are still young in the system. So very good performance from the defensive line. Got to feel good about where they are and how they're going to just naturally progress throughout the season. So there's my good and my bad from the week 1 game against Pittsburgh. I'm going to try and get out another Between the Ears video on Friday as scheduled. Didn't get one last week because I was coming back from Pittsburgh. This week, I'm actually dealing with COVID right now. So I'm trying to fight through it, trying to get through all this stuff while still getting up all this content. So we'll see how I'm feeling when it comes to Friday. I promise you we will record the Walkthrough Game Day show, and that will be up on Wednesday. That will be up Thursday at 6 p.m. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at SI_WVU. You can follow me at Callihan_, and be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Check us out at Mountaineers Now. I'm Schuyler Callihan, and that's it for this episode of Between the Ears. We'll see you guys on Friday.